a chance you can do something amazing to feel your passion blazing and shine.
Paint with every vision, dance in new directions, explode to new heights in your mind.
I will rise up with you today.
Lift up my voice
and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Hello and welcome to AGNT Speaks. My name is Lola Wright. I have the great honor and privilege of serving as a member of the Leadership Council for the Association for Global New Thought. We gather every single week, really with an opportunity to what I might call disrupt the sleepy state. Remind us that in spite of circumstances and conditions, there is a capacity that lives at the center of your being. And when we align with that, when we become aware of that, something wholly new is possible. It is worth noting that we are also in the midst of a season for nonviolence, which is an opportunity for us to bow deeply to the extraordinary lives and work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. And I think in service of that, I'd love to invite you into an inquiry. You know, I've been sitting with the work of Thich Nhat Hanh this month and his particular articulation of love. And I'd like to share that with you. He talks about the four aspects of love in the Buddhist tradition. He talks about loving kindness, he talks about compassion, he talks about joy, and he talks about freedom. But one of the most important distinctions that he makes in talking about the four aspects of love is the use of the word ability. He does not talk about love as a kind of apathetic practice. He does not talk about love as a kind of romance novel. And I think that when we think about the lives and the legacy of King and Gandhi, there was a fierce love. There was an active love. You know, Ernest Holmes defined love as a cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible, a fire of the universe. And so I think that's really what we're called into right now on the planet, is a fierce love, a kind of awakening of our ability, not to merely conceptualize love, but to actualize love. And what that requires is the ability to exercise loving kindness, the ability to exercise compassion, the ability to exercise joy, and the ability to exercise freedom in our relationships, in our relationship with ourselves, in our relationship with perhaps our romantic partners, in our relationship with our intimate relationships beyond our romantic partnerships, and public love. What does love look like in public? So what I leave us with is perhaps a practice today on where our love edge is. What's your love edge? You know, if you imagine or if you sense into the interconnected relationship that you have with all of existence, realizing that nothing is occurring in isolation, that the dis-ease of the human condition and the magnificence of the human condition are not happening separate and apart from you, but are right where you are. Then we can begin to look at what is the edge that I am working on, that I'm expanding into, that I'm contributing to the human experience. So I'd love to invite you into a little practice with me today, if you would. And it's easy for you. Go ahead and still your body and perhaps begin to deepen the breath into the belly. You can do this with eyes open. You can do this with eyes closed. Perhaps breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. I prefer that practice of breath in through my nose, out through my mouth. It gives me a somatic experience of the reciprocal nature of existence, the giving and receiving, in and out, in and out. So perhaps breathe more deeply than you have all day. As you settle into your body and deepen your breath, begin to ask the question, what is my love edge? when I consider love as a cosmic force, something that goes beyond analysis, a quality that involves my activation and ability. What is my love edge as it relates to myself? Where have I determined that something about me is beyond love, unlovable? Bring your awareness to that place and space and see if you can, through no effort, invite the amplification of love where you are. Bring your awareness to perhaps a romantic partner, a love interest. Could be present, could be past. What is your love edge in that relationship? Where are you withholding? Where are you creating blocks? Where have you capped your capacity to give and receive? Continuing to deepen the breath into the belly, bring your awareness to your intimate relationships, perhaps family, friends, colleagues. What is your love edge in those relationships? Where are you being called to cultivate an increased ability to extend loving kindness, compassion, joy, and freedom? Oftentimes in our intimate relationships, we will project our expectations and unknowingly, perhaps, activate a kind of control plan. We have an idea of how your life should look, and we love you. But consider that that's not love at all. Oftentimes we'll experience this as parents or partners, having an idea of what we think another should be doing. In the work of Hale Dwoskin of the Sedona method, he says, love is wanting for another what they want for themselves. So where is my love edge in my intimate relationships? And finally, we ask ourselves the question, what is my love edge in public? In the areas of influence that I occupy, in my place of work, in my local community, in my voting record. How am I putting love on display in the circulation of my finances? What does love look like in public as you? If we sit with this inquiry of love merely as conceptual, we then wonder why the world looks as it does. But have we actually considered what is the ability that I must contribute to the realization or the actualization of love in public? Cornel West says, justice is the public face of love. If we are existing in a reality absent a loving and just global society, then we are merely pondering love as a concept. And what I know is that we are not here for that. We're here to actualize, to realize, to demonstrate the presence of love in the public square. So I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And ask yourself, what is my love edge in public? And if you've closed your eyes, go ahead and open them. Perhaps bring the corners of your mouth up. The experience of a grin or a smile actually alters our central nervous system. We create a sense of receptivity. So, in the season for new violence, as we bring our awareness to the work of Mahatma Gandhi and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in the month of February, where there is an increased intention around the practice of love, I leave you with the question of what your love edge is. When you consider the activation of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and freedom in your relationships, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with a lover, your relationship with your intimate relationships, your relationship with love in the public square. What is your love edge? And have you cultivated the ability to bring it forward beyond just thinking about it? So if you're joining us on Facebook, I thank you for being with us here today. We do this every week. And worth noting that on March 7th, Sunday, March 7th, we are celebrating an annual holiday called New Thought Day. It is the opportunity to become aware of this incredible movement that occurred on the planet with deep roots in what we call the United States of America, where there was a kind of realization that the presence of the infinite was not merely outside of us, but in fact right where we are. And so we bow deeply to the New Thought movement, of which we are a part of, and thank it for the work that it has been by way of many people that have come before this now moment. And if you're joining us on Zoom, I look forward to having a deep dive with you following this around what love looks like beyond the conceptual. So thank you again for being with us, and we look forward to having you with us next week for AGNT Speaks. If you're interested in more information about our work in the world, please visit agnt.today. And if you want more information on New Thought Day, Google New Thought Day. You'll find all kinds of information about the New Thought movement and about the work of realizing your capacity, your oneness with all of existence, and certainly a principle that exists in many great traditions. So deep bow to the ancient wisdom and New Thought teachings of today. Thank you for being with us. What is your love edge? That is what I leave you with.
So for me, what community looks like is the ability to gather in small, medium, and large settings and have conversation that matters. And conversation that matters to me involves like growth, development, evolution, equity, justice, transformation, like authenticity, so freedom, liberation. I mean, the two primary things that I think I stand for are freedom and wholeness. Like the thing that I want for human beings, if ever I interact with you, is for you to know that there's an aspect to your being that has never been hurt, harmed, or hindered, that you are whole, you are holy, that you are perfect exactly as you are, no matter what you have gone through, no matter what you have done. Because I firmly and fundamentally believe that if people know that there is an aspect to themselves that is good, we walk on the planet with greater love, greater compassion, greater kindness, greater generosity. And then the other quality that is just essential for me is freedom, that we create places and spaces and experiences where people are fully free to be themselves. And my theory is that if you do wholeness plus freedom, you equal like a healthy, integrated human. And when we have healthy, integrated humans walking on the planet, there is a viable future that is fun and loving.
So thank you again for being with us today. If you're joining us on Zoom, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what's on your mind as you tune into this conversation today. At any time, please raise your hand. We'll invite you into the Zoom room. And again, the inquiry here is really what does love look like as you beyond the conceptual? You know, that's really what we're being called to at this moment in time. Like our sort of reflections and musings on love um, are relatively meaningless if they're not put into action. And the way that we know that they're in action is what does the world look like? So we're in a constant feedback loop with this dimension of reality while realizing that we are our humanity and we go far beyond our humanity. But the beautiful thing about the world of form, is that it is constantly reflecting back to us the world of our beliefs, our opinions, our feelings, our thoughts, our memories. It is a feedback loop of our collective consciousness. So, what does love look like as you? And I'm so happy to have you, Mary Lou. Thanks for being with us. What's on your mind today? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, I just couldn't write fast enough, and I was taking notes, and I missed the 4 aspects of love to use
Yes.
ability. So could you state those again?
Yes, thank you for asking for what you need and want. I love that. So, the 4 aspects of love in Buddhism, as interpreted by Vietnamese Buddhist monk, are loving kindness, compassion, joy, and freedom. And again, I think, it's so easy to hear those words conceptually and be like, oh, yeah, of course, that sounds lovely. But one of the things that I appreciate so much about the way Thich Nhat Hanh articulates this work is he says the ability, not just the desire to activate loving kindness, compassion, joy, and freedom in relationship with ourselves and relationship with another is insufficient. Ernest Holmes talks about sort of a similar concept. Self-awareness is not enough, he says. To just become aware of something is actually inadequate. We are in this dimension of reality to activate, actualize, move into a kind of creative space. So I hope that's helpful.
Very, very. I'm thinking about some thoughts that came to me in prayer time this morning, and the freedom in regards to a particular person who did not behave the way I wanted her to behave.
Yes, I appreciate
That,
your
that
clarity of speech there.
element of judgment is not exercising freedom.
Yeah, it's
Loving.
really, really great.
Yeah, that's, oh wow. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, but that's really, we're so susceptible to that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, whether, it's like, hey, I will grant you permission so long as you do everything the way I think it should be done. Nothing free about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Great.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And so it's a great inquiry, right? It's a great opportunity to reflect in my relationship with those that I love. Where have I determined, or where have I cloaked love as control, or rather cloaked control and called it love? And like I said, so easy to do that in our intimate relationships. So easy to do that with our children, so easy to do that with our coworkers, our siblings, right? It's like, well, no, I could extend you love if you'd only do what I think you should do as I think you should do it. And again, that's not a radical framework for love. That's a highly conditional set of circumstances, which of course is distinct from exercising clear and clean boundaries. A lot of times we will hear a very radical context, and then immediately the mind will say, well, no, but if so what are you saying, Lola? We should just be like, willy-nilly, just let people do whatever it is they want? No, that's not what I'm saying. But we are having to thread the needle here. And I really believe that the consciousness of humanity is ripe and ready to go beyond, well, either you mean this or you mean that. Either you mean this or you mean that. We are living in a nuanced reality. If love is all there is, if it is available here and now, then what is the feedback that this world of form is giving us when I do not experience the realization or the actualization of love? So I know that this can seem like a little heady, a little conceptual, but I want to try to make it as practical as we can for one another. And really, really, I love what Barbara says here. Namaste means to recognize the divinity of the other. First, we need to fully acknowledge the other. Yeah, this is, we're familiar with the golden rule, do unto others as we would have them do unto us. And perhaps you've heard of the platinum rule, do unto others as they would have done unto them. There can be an assumption that we all want to be treated the way that I want to be treated, right? And so there really is the opportunity to look at what does love look like in public. So we have a couple minutes here. If there's something on your heart and your mind, you're wanting to add texture to this, or you're grappling with something that I said, please go ahead and take yourself off mute. Join me in this Zoom room. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what your active practice of love looks like. Again, not conceptual. What's your love edge? Wow, I love what Mary Lou said. I'm becoming aware that my expectation of love is highly conditional. When we are willing to become that honest with ourselves, a whole new world opens up. When I am living in denial about my atrophied muscle around love, very little is possible to shift. One of my mentors says, you cannot shift what you cannot accept. Jung would have said something very similar. Unless we become intimately familiar with our unconscious, it's ruling the show, right? And so we become aware, what is my love edge? Where have I determined love is available up to this point, and then that's it. I turn it off. We're being called into a radical love, a fierce love, one that serves as a cosmic force that goes beyond analysis. Yes, who's here with me? Come join in. I would love to hear from you. We have just a couple minutes left. And Barbara, I know that you are oftentimes behind the scenes, but I would love to hear from you. When you hear all of this, what comes up for you?
Well, this sounds a little simplistic, but sometimes I need that in order to understand stuff. And I think about how close I am to my pets, to my cats. Mm-hmm. And my active expression of love to them takes the form of basically fulfilling their physical needs. Of course, their emotional needs and so on. But, it's an act of love to feed them, to clean them, to make sure they're safe, that they're warm, that I understand what they need at any given moment. And then I think of it isn't any different with any other human beings, whether they're close in our lives or at large in our lives, that to fully recognize that my act of love is discovering and affirming and responding to what they actually need.
So
and when it comes to a partner, that's, thorny because we have all these charges around our close and intimate friends and partners. And that's one challenge. And another challenge is to think about people in society whose needs are, complex and just intrinsically critical, whether they're homeless or whether they're discriminated against or whether they're educated or whether they have medical care. And to understand those needs and respond to those needs is the purest act of love. And that's where any kind of politics or whatever else comes in that would obstruct you from responding to those needs in any way that you were capable, it just sort of becomes irrelevant, right? So if I can listen to what you've said today and just keep reminding myself at every level that that's a very simple equation for me to learn how to love better,
Mhm.
that I might actually make some progress.
Yeah. I mean, I I I feel like to some extent, in some ways, we've almost given up on love. It's like, we've gotten so mired in opposition, independent of your worldview. It's just, this idea of being for something and against nothing. Like that is a real exercise in discipline, in discernment. I have a new podcast, Find Your Fierce and Loving, and I just had yesterday released an episode with an agape practitioner that I've worked with for over 10 years, named Angela Montano. And she articulates love so beautifully. And she says we have all these conditions that we place, but the funny thing is that like if there are so many conditions, we've gotten so far away from love. And so when you talk about your pets, it's like, actually, what if we just got this real simple? Does everyone have their needs met? Like, have we tended to food, to shelter, to water? Where are we living inside of a delusion that there's not enough, and then constructing a society and a reality consistent with that? So, I mean, those are like big ideas, but this technology, if you will, this school of thought that consciousness is all there is not meant for just the manifestation of a parking spot or a great coffee drink. And so it's like, what if we could actually use this dynamic, radical, on fire expression of love to alter our systems and our structures? And then who would I have to be in the midst of that? So,
Yep. Good words, Lola. Thank you for
well,
today.
yeah, thanks for being here with us. And I hope that this was of service to you. I hope that you are able to walk on the planet with an inquiry around your love edge. Who are you here to be as a cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible, that goes beyond the limitations and considerations of what's not possible? Imagine if Gandhi or King had lived inside of what wasn't possible. We would live in a very different world today. It is only because of the outrageous imagination of people that we have continued to experience good and greater good. So I hope you tap into your love edge today, and I wish you many, many blessings. Remember, we are here each week at 12 p.m. Central Time, the Association for Global New Thought, committed to supporting one another and awakening to the beauty, the glory, the love, the peace, the power that is always available in this human experience. So many blessings.